Hi, it's Mel with We Can Code It, and I'm going to show you how to call a REST API from your web application. So we're going to use other people's data basically, and we're going to grab it, and I'm going to click a button and make a call out to somebody else's server, and it's going to do a round back to us, and we're going to populate this data in a view for a web page. So we're going to see a couple of different approaches to this. One approach is going to be straight up using jQuery, using an Ajax request out to another server. And then that server will send us back information and we'll populate a view using jQuery and another helper library called Knockout, which I really like, and I think you'll like too. It makes life a little easier. Then we're going to compare this and contrast it with an approach to call an API, but from the back end, from a model. So we're going to call it in a class that we make, and then we're going to put the information, move it over to our controller, and the controller is then going to send it back to our view. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. Let's take a look. Let's get started here. What I'm going to do is get into Visual Studio. This is Microsoft Visual Studio 2015 Community Edition, which you can get for free. And I'm going to go to File, New Project, and then a new dialog window will open. And from this, on the left-hand side, make sure you're under Visual C#, choose Web, and in here you'll see ASP.NET Web Application. That's what we're looking for. And I'm going to call this Weather App. That's easy enough. Hit OK, and we will choose an empty ASP.NET template and add folders and core references for, make sure you check MVC right now. That's what we're doing. We're going to do this in MVC. Hit OK. There are other ways to do this, by the way. There's rarely only one way to do something, especially in programming. So it's going to create this project for us. And we're going to check a couple of things out. While it's creating a project for us, I want to let you know about this weather API that we're going to use. It's at openweathermap.org. You can go ahead and sign up for an account pretty easily. Put your username, your email, and your password in. Let's try this. Let's put in some bogus thing right here just to show you the next screen. Oh, I think this is one of the sites that requires a longer password. Okay. All right. Welcome. Notice you'll go to a welcome screen and you will get an API key. This is a big deal. This is what you should remember. And if it ever gets released into the wild by an unfortunate accident, for example, you share it with people, you can easily reset it right here and have a brand new API key for yourself. But even though it has this little nope, you can't do that icon when you mouse over the API key, you can double click it and then hit Control-C to copy it, because we will need that later in our application. But for right now, let's go back to Visual Studio, and yay, the scaffolding is done, and we have our folders over to the right, model, view, controller. Those are the big ones for us. Let's start off. Let's start off with a view this time. Why not? Okay, views. Add view. And let's call this weather JS. That's going to be because we're going to be grabbing it from JavaScript, or actually jQuery. Okay. Hit OK, and it's going to scaffold a view for us, which simply means it's going to create a page with some stuff in it. Really, really basic stuff in it. Okay, here's the page. Cool. I am simply going to do two things. I'm going to put a paragraph element in here. I'm going to throw an ID on it, and I'm going to call it reply. Boom. Okay. Now below, I'm going to throw a script tag. In this script, I'm going to do a get request. So a get request is it's an Ajax request, and it's going to ask for the first parameter is going to be where the URL that you're grabbing the information from. Okay, so that is the first parameter. Then we're going to have an anonymous function for the callback. This is the code that gets called after the method that you will put here returns. All right, so let's just do this, make it a little prettier. There we go. And after we get it, let's do this. We're going to get it, and we are going to, in here, oops, one thing I forgot is to put an argument or a parameter to this function. The parameter to this function will contain the whatever is returned by the method you call here, or the page. Okay, it gets returned in here, and then we can play with it. Response dot, and we can, let's just do response. I'm going to comment this out for 1 second because we need the URL for our get. So I told you one of the ways we're going to do this is straight up through jQuery and calling the API. So let me go here into the API and let's take a look at what they have. They have current weather data, some other forecasts, etc. They have all sorts of things. We're going to use current weather data. It's pretty easy to use. Click it and you can read about what's going on. So you can grab it by city name. That seems pretty easy, and they're giving us an example of a call to their API. We're going to just grab this right here. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to Visual Studio, and guess what? I'm going to paste it. But I'm not done yet. First of all, let's put a protocol in front of this, http://. The rest of it's good. This question mark says, now let's start a query string. This is a GET request with some arguments, really. It's name, value, pair. So this query is by city. I'm going to put in good old Cleveland because me and LeBron love Cleveland. Okay. To put a second, to put other future parameters in or arguments into this GET request, you just put an ampersand. Okay. Now, remember there's this one thing called app ID, and let me go back here and grab it. Let me hit back a couple of times. Get back to that page where they told me my ID. Here it is. Okay, app ID, good. I'm going to grab that. How do I know this? Because I've used this before and I saw it somewhere else on their site. It's not anything crazy. And I also think the other value is units equals imperial. So we want these so that Americans can properly understand what is going on. Imperial. Okay. So I'm saving that, and now let's deal with the response. Dealing with the response we get after the GET request, it's going to take just a tiny bit more work. I'm going to throw some HTML in here, paragraph and a button. So this paragraph will hold the response, and it's going to be ugly at first, purposefully, so I can show you what a JSON object looks. JSON looks like JavaScript object notation. All right, I'm also going to wrap this in a document ready event. Okay, and then one more time, let's wrap it in the button.click event. Anonymous function as a callback. There we go. Good. Before we run this, there are a couple of things we need to do. First of all, let's check that our jQuery is up to date. So I'm going to go to Weather App, right click here, go to NuGet. In NuGet, I'm going to search for jQuery It's going to return right here. It's going to say upgrade. I'm going to click upgrade, and it's going to do all is well, adding packages, and it's done. I'm going to close this window, go back here, look in my scripts folder, excuse me, and there I see it. Now let's go to our views, and under shared we see layout. This is where the jQuery. Okay, so there's a reference to jQuery down at the bottom of our layout page. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to put the new reference up here. I've already done that. I just want to show it to you, okay? I'm going to save the layout page, and I'm going to head over to my weather.js.cs.html file, and I've already done this as well, where I put that I want in my reply ID, I want to have the response come back and get put up there. Now this is going to be interesting. We're not going to see much because response is going to be an object, but I just want to show you what it will look like once you click get weather. It's just going to populate right here, object, object. Okay, well that's interesting. So let's change this up a little bit, and instead of just response, the whole object, I'm going to choose response name. Now I know this value because I have looked at the API before and I know what it returns. Let's refresh this. That was my dog in the background. Hi Stella. And there we go, Cleveland. Very good. So we know we're getting something somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and inspect element on this page, and we're going to go to the console, and we'll see if we can play with this a little bit. Let's have that console open, and let's go back to Visual Studio. I'm going to put console.log response here. Okay, let's refresh and see what happens. Control R. Nothing so far except a couple of errors from plugins I have, just that I'm going to just clear out right here. Okay, I'm going to hit get weather, and there we go. This is what the object looks like. This is what I'm getting from that API. Let's take a look. There's something called base. There's a clouds object in there. Nothing interesting. Some COD, which I have no idea what it is. Coordinates, latitude and longitude. Cool. Main. Let's see what's under main. Humidity, pressure, temp. That's in Fahrenheit because I put the units equals imperial in that API call. So let's try to add some of this to our layout. Okay, so I want to go to main, temp, and humidity. That's cool. Let's see what else there is. Weather's some groovy array with an object in it, which sky is clear. Let's start with this. Let's start with just the humidity and the temp. Let's add those into our view. Let's put some spots for them up here. So let's put in a couple more paragraphs. One for temp, that's right there. Let's make another one for humidity. That's good. Actually, let's change reply to name just to be thoughtful. Clean it up a little bit. Change this to name.text equals response name. We have the console log response. Actually, let me move that because that's the way I roll. Move it up here. Let's copy this. Let's make two more. Let's change this to temp. Let's change this to humidity. And then this is response dot main dot temp. Remember, it was under that main object, and this will also be main dot humidity. That's how we access those. Okay, let's refresh this page. Let's get weather. I'm going to clear this out because that just annoys me. There we go. Get weather, and ta-da! Here is the city. Here's the degrees Fahrenheit, and here's the humidity. And again, if we want to take a look, there you go. All right. next up is how to do this from the model instead of straight from the front end view. Why would I want to do this? Well, sometimes you don't want to have your secret information, aka your app ID, hanging out there for everyone in the world to see. If you didn't know, you can check out a web page fairly easily and view the full source even. Let's just go ahead and see if we can find this. It's right here. And guess what? Anyone can view this. Anyone. Your grandma can view this. I'm sure your grandma's not going to tell anyone about it, but let's be smart. I will go ahead and change all of my values so you can't use them. So that's how I'm going to be smart. Let's be smarter than this, okay? But for some purposes, this kind of functionality, an API call straight from your jQuery, could work, right? If you don't have anything you really care about in here. Okay. I'm back in Visual Studio now, and I'm going to go ahead and start this call from my model. Let's go ahead and right-click on the Models folder, go to Add, and let's just add a class. Let's call this, how about Weather class? Oh, I'm so creative today. All right, so here's class Weather. In class Weather, I'm going to create a method called getWeatherForecast. It's going to be public. I'm returning an object, okay? And this object's going to be of this JSON content here that I get back. I put a URL in here. This URL is the same exact URL I had in my jQuery version with Ajax. And now I'm going to create a variable called client. And it's instantiating a new web client. There are a couple ways to do this. Again, there's so many ways to do things in programming. This is just one. I'm not saying it's the best. It serves its purpose right here. I just added the appropriate using statement for that. Now let's do this after we create the web client. Then we're going to download string, use this method of the web client, and we're going to grab it from the URL. This will return the JSON content from the URL as a string into this variable I'm calling content. Now, why not create another variable since we're variable happy? And this one will be called serializer, and it's going to instantiate a new JavaScript serializer. And let's go ahead and add the using, the namespace for that, and resolve that red squiggly. Okay, and that's going to prepare us to deserialize, basically read from the string and change it into a JSON object, whatever we returned from this API. Okay, so that's creating the serializer. Then I have another variable called JSON content, and it takes this serializer and uses a method deserialize with a whole bunch of objects, and it's passing in the content. What is the content? It's that string that was returned from the API. Got it? So it turns that string into JSON, and then I return the JSON. Okay? Not the only way to do it, just one way, quick and easy for right now. All right? Didn't say it's the best way. I said it's a way to get it done. Cool. Now we have to get this thing from the controller, right? So what do we need now? We still need a controller. We still need a view. Okay, let's create a method in our controller. First thing I'm going to do is let's prepare for our view. We will call our view weather. How about weather or not? Ha ha ha. Okay. This will just be the main page, the main view page before we do the query. Okay. Then I want to create another method. And this method is, let's call this get the weather. Oh, I have to get rid of the. I'll never remember. I never call anything get the anything. It's just get something. Let's do that. It will return the type of JSON, and I'll fill out the rest later, but know that this will be done. This is the method we're going to call from our view, by the way. This is going to be just the page itself. This is going to be the method that we call in our get query, in the Ajax stuff, JavaScript. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, good. So let's start building this get weather since we're here. It's going to let's go ahead and create an object, instantiate an object of type weather. So let's go like this. Weather, you know how to do this. Not weather app, just weather. Weather, sure, whatever. Equals new weather. Why is it yelling at me? Because I have to put in another using statement. What are we using? We're using weather app.models. Good. We'll pop it right in there. Yay. So we have one of these. Now we're going to use this. Remember, it's returning a JSON object. And I could just put this straight into my return JSON with dot get weather forecast. Cool. Okay. I'm going to put one more thing in here. JSON request behavior. And we're going to allow gets. Good. This will allow us to use a get request here and not give us too much grief. All right, finally, we need to create the whether or not page. And it's going to go under our home view. Right click there, add view. Let's call it whether or not. Good. Hit add. To make our lives easier and make your jobs faster, we are going to find that weather.js view. I'm going to copy everything in there, Control C after I hit Control A, and I'm going to do a Control A on the whether or not page. Let's change this to whether or not. So it's pasted in here, and I just need to change a few things. So instead of getting that URL directly, what we're going to do is get the method I just created in my home controller called getWeather. That in turn is going to reach out to the class called weather, which is in my models folder, and then we're going to call getWeatherForecast. Easy peasy. Okay, so this is fun. We use Razor syntax. Starts with an @ This is called URL.action. URL.action, we're going to put in 2 arguments. First argument is going to be the, what did I call it again? Get weather? Not get the weather, I called it get weather, right? I was debating this. Get weather. Cool. Where did I find that? Right here. Okay, get weather, and it is in the home controller. Cool. The rest is going to stay the same. Let's test it. F5 from whether or not.cshtml. Loading, popping up my video app so that you can see it. Not very smart. Adobe Captivate. Okay, and here we go. Let's get the weather. Let's see what happens. Crossing. Oh, there we go. Yes! Same thing. 2 different ways to do it. Got it? Great. Next up, we're going to learn about a wonderful library called Knockout.js. Let's get going with Knockout. I'm back in Visual Studio. I happen to be on my whether or not CSHTML page, which is a view. But before we get going with Knockout in this view, because that's where we put it, we need to add a reference to it. And we need to get Knockout itself as well. We're in Visual Studio. We're going to use something called Knockout mapping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on my weather app. I'm going to hit NuGet, so manage NuGet packages, and you're going to type in search, you're going to type in Knockout mapping. All right? And you will see, oh my, why is this taking so long? Okay, there it is. I have it installed already. You probably won't. Get there and click install. It's going to go through its paces and you will have it in your scripts folder. You will have actually 4 Knockout JS files. We're going to grab Knockout, the main one, and Knockout mapping latest, and we are going to put those in our layout page. So I've already placed them there, but to do it, you just drag it over and put it there. Put it after jQuery, please, because it is dependent on jQuery. Go ahead and save that when you're done. Let's hop back out to whether or not. All right, a couple of things we're going to do. First thing you might notice is that I'm taking out a whole bunch of code, including this stuff. I'm going to redo the HTML a little bit. And in its place, I'm going to use Knockout. I would like to create an object to hold my, it's going to be a JSON object here. So let's create a new object var weather equals object. Cool. This is we're just initializing this variable called weather that we will use. Okay? How will we use it? Well, you'll see right here. So I'm assigning this groovy method called FromJS to weather. So KO stands for knockout.mapping. That's the library we're using. And then put a dot and then say FromJS. And this function is going to expect an argument. What argument? Well, it's going to expect this response, whatever we get back from the server as our JSON. Okay, throw it in there. It populates this weather object. That's what it's going to do. And then right after that, you're going to use another groovy method. This time it's straight out knockout method. It's called ko.applyBindings. And inside of apply bindings, we are going to pass in this object that we just made, that we just assigned to the value here of what came back from this FromJS method, and we're going to put it right here in apply bindings. So weather goes there. Now, apply bindings, this is the cool part. Knockout is used for what is called MVVM, Model View View Model, is an extension of sorts to MVC, except we're now creating a view model in our view. We're just breaking it out a bit. What does that mean? Well, you'll see in a second. Here's what it means. Let's create a div. Let's throw a class on this of call medium 12. Why not? Okay, good. So that's from, Bootstrap, right? Now let's create an H1. And inside of our H1, we're going to say conditions. How about current conditions? And then we're going to put a span. And instead of an ID, we're going to use a special attribute, data dash, and this one's called bind, data dash bind equals, inside the quotes, let me close this span out, inside the quotes, Knockout expects a couple of different things. It's going to be a name value pair. All right, so the name, first part is going to be the property of this HTML element that we are going to be binding the knockout value, the value from this JSON to. So I'm going to, let's just say text, right? Let's change the text of it. What are we going to bind to it? Well, let's say name. Name is one of the items in the object that is returned to us, and it will have the city name. It's returned to us from that weather API. Cool. Let's do another one. Let's make this one say, let's put a, we don't need a div here. or H1, we're going to say temperature, and instead of text name, we're going to say main.temp. Remember that? Main.temp. Let's put it here. Then let's put the degree symbol. To do that, we use ampersand, DEG, semicolon, and then I'm going to put F for Fahrenheit. All right. Let's go ahead and test this. F5. Let's hit Get Weather. And there you go. Pretty cool, isn't it? After this, I would probably clean this up. I probably wouldn't want to use a button to get my weather, but simply get it when the document is ready. So I'm going to remove the button click event as well as the button element on that page. I'm going to refresh this. And there we go. Cool. You could do the same thing in your weather.cs file if you'd like. There's so much more to learn about Knockout. It's fantastic. I love it. It's so simple, isn't it? Much simpler than going through all of the values that we need to get in jQuery itself and assigning them. So much easier. Saves us time. All right. Well, that finishes up our tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned more about not only about Knockout in the view, but about how to call a REST API, R-E-S-T, look it up, and do it a couple different ways. And this is essentially how you do most APIs. All right, enjoy.